All right, guys, time to start 8.3 population and society. So, we've talked a lot about kind of family planning and whatnot, but this is just going to kind of hammer it home a little bit more. Like you can see at the bottom there, talk about family planning, birth control, contraception, stuff like that. Okay, so starting on page 199, I wrote it access to and the use of contraceptives make a huge impact on family size and population growth. Okay, education is better than government policy. We've talked about this a bunch. Basically, the more kind of education and that women get, as well as the access to contraceptives and birth control, that makes a huge, huge, huge difference. This last part here, education is better than government policy. Over to the right, I like what it talks about here. It's talking that the paragraph here. The government of Thailand has reduced birth rates and slowed population growth as well. In the 1960s, Thailand's growth rate was 2.3%, but in 2015 it was 0.4%. This decline was achieved without a one-child policy, resulting instead from an education-based approach. And that right there is huge. Because like we talked about, government's an important role, but government trying to control everything won't really do much. The more kind of educated the population is, that's what really causes change to occur. Now this figure down here, I'm confident you guys kind of can put the pieces together. But basically, you can see potential fertility versus the fertility reductions by delayed childbirth and contraceptive use. So you can see from basically, I don't even know what that would be, probably maybe 13 or 14 up to 50. That's the reproductive window. Okay? Use birth control. You want to delay it to focus on education and career, spacing births out, and then you end it. So basically, family planning. So you can potentially only have 2 kids compared to, I don't even know how many that is, but too many and it seems terrible. Okay, so education and contraceptives are a huge part of population growth and control. Now, this science behind the story, okay, did soap operas reduce fertility in Brazil, is actually really interesting. Kind of talking about how they used kind of television to literally influence their society. It's kind of an interesting read on how they did this. Okay, and it really influenced their population growth. So now Brazil has free contraception, but abortion is illegal. So they can't do any abortions at all, but women have access to birth control. So that's what the Brazil uses for their population growth control. And it says there, when women get to control their reproductive choices, TFR, or total fertility rate, goes down. Okay, that's basically like how many kids each woman is having. Now, one of the things I want to point out is this chart over here, just to kind of explain it, because in the thing says fertility declined, but if you look at the chart, you're thinking, wait, it's going up. Okay, but look at the legend up there. You can see 1970 to 1980 to 1991. So you can see it's going down in every age category. And I wanted to kind of point that out because last year I saw a bunch of kids kind of misreading that one. So I want to kind of point that out. And charts like this is what AP likes to use, where it looks one way, but if you actually look at it and look at the legend and the details, it makes much more sense. All right, so moving on to page 202. Okay, so I said kids contribute less in affluent societies and therefore cost more. And I know that's a kind of a terrible way to say that, but think about it. In your situation, in your family, are you contributing to the cost of your family? Meaning, are you going out to plow the fields with your dad or wash clothes with your mom to basically make money to give back to the family? That's what I'm talking about there. Because like right now, your focus, and in my opinion it should be, is on schooling, is on education, is bettering yourself. Okay, but since you aren't contributing, therefore you cost more to your family. Okay, and like I said, it sounds bad and it kind of sounds like I'm insulting you, but I'm not. Okay, bottom part there is a great description of population hurting financially. So basically, poverty exacerbates population growth. Basically, meaning if you're in poverty, your access to birth control and family planning and education is low. So basically, poverty makes it so population growth happens faster. And then rapid population growth worsens poverty. So it's kind of a positive feedback loop, unfortunately. Okay? So moving on to page 203. poverty hurts the environment, but wealth hurts the environment much worse. And we've talked a little bit about this. I like this analogy right here. Okay, in this sense, the addition of one American to the world has as much environmental impact as the addition of 3.4 Chinese, 8 Indians, or 14 Afghans. This fact reminds us that the population problem does not lie solely with nations in the developing world, but is relevant to people everywhere. Okay, and so basically, overall, think about it. Okay, if you have wealth, like America does, you're going to want things, and those things are what hurts the world. Okay, in a much more impactful way than poverty does, unfortunately. Okay, so this one here, page 204, says affluence leads to large ecological footprints. Okay, that's what I was talking about again. Okay, so it says the richest 1/5 also uses 86% of the world's resources. So 20% of us use 86% of the resources. Okay, and this picture here is kind of a good example of that. Okay, so you can see it says basically it's US versus India. So economic activity, 55,000. Footprint, 8.2 hectares. CO2 output, 17 metric tons. Compare that to India, they basically have 10% of the economic activity, but they have basically an eighth of an ecological footprint and a tenth of the CO2 output. That's what we're talking about versus where basically affluence leads to a bigger ecological footprint. And that's where that IPAT model comes out. All righty, create some questions so we can chat.